This video is on setting up and solving proportions. Proportions are essentially two ratios set equal to each other. And when we're setting them up, we have to be very careful about how we're lining up the units. So this problem says, a certain medicine is given in an amount proportional to a patient's body weight. Suppose a patient weighs 128 pounds, receives 240 milligrams of medicine. What is the weight of a patient who requires 225 milligrams of medicine? So I see we have two things going on. We have situation 1, where we have a patient who's weighing 128 pounds and they get 240 milligrams of medicine. And then we have another situation where we have an unknown weight of the patient, and that person is receiving 225 milligrams of the medicine. So what we're going to do to solve this is we're going to set up a ratio of pounds to milligrams or milligrams to pounds and set that equal to a similar ratio for the second situation. So if I put pounds on top, it doesn't matter which thing goes on top, pounds or milligrams. What just matters is that we're consistent in the way that we're setting up our ratios. So if I have 128 pounds over 240 milligrams of medicine, I know that my other fraction is also going to have milligrams in the denominator. So this other situation, there's 225 milligrams, but we don't know what the weight is of the other person in pounds. I actually could have set this up differently. Could have written 240 milligrams over 128 pounds equals 225 milligrams over W pounds. Again, what matters is that we're consistent with setting up our ratios. Okay, we have 128 over 240 equals W over 225. How do we solve this? What won't work is multiplying both sides by W. What will work is if we clear the fractions, or specifically, if we clear this fraction right here. If we clear the fractions, I want to multiply both sides by both of these numbers. I know 240 and 225 have a common factor of 5. I'm not going to worry about finding the least common denominator. I'm just going to multiply both sides by 240 times 225. I see the 240 simplifies out on the left-hand side, and the 225 simplifies out on the right-hand side. And so what we're left with is 225 times 128 equals 240 times W. Multiplying this together, we get 28,800 equals 240 W. And then dividing both sides by 240, we end up with, what do we end up with? 120 equals W. So that means the weight of this other person would be 120 pounds. This should make sense with what we know about the ratio here, because the heavier person should require more milligrams of medicine. So since this is slightly fewer milligrams, I expect the person to weigh slightly less than 128 pounds. There's another way of solving this proportion. Let me write it again. Actually, let me do this other version. So we have 240 over 128 equals 225 over W. This is the same, I know it looks different, but if we solved it, if we cleared fractions, we'd end up with the same exact thing. So with proportions, and only with proportions, there's something called cross multiplication. Cross multiplication is when you have one fraction equals another fraction, that really specific case, one fraction equals another, you can multiply diagonally across the equal sign and set these two things equal to one another. So what that means is that we would end up with 240 times w. So there's our first diagonal, equal sign 128 times 225. If you notice, this is exactly what we have right over here. So 240w equals 128 times 225. 225 times 128 equals 240w. We can go ahead and multiply that out and solve it, but we're still going to end up with the same answer of 120 pounds. Thank you.